Today's adventures takes us to an abandoned cemetery. But this isn't just any abandoned cemetery. This cemetery is full of lore and intrigue. This abandoned cemetery has been on numerous programs, including Ghost Adventure. The cemetery is also named one of the most haunted cemeteries in America. Today, we're going to explore Bachelors Grove Cemetery. So come on, join me as we explore Bachelors Grove Cemetery. So one of the things we would notice as we come here is the road, Midlothian Turnpike. Now, coming from the East Midlothian Turnpike heads southwest and then heads due west and turns into 143rd Street. At one time, Midlothian Turnpike continued southwest, went past the cemetery, and eventually would hook up with Ridgeland Avenue. Sometime around 1930, the configuration of Midlothian Turnpike was changed so that it turned due west and became 143rd Street. You're still able to access Bachelors Grove Cemetery. This road did not go through to Ridgeland at the time, after 1930, but you're still able to drive back here, and there was a parking lot where you could access the cemetery. I suspect that too many weird things started happening back here, and at some point they closed this off altogether to cars. So I also suspect that a lot of the stories of this cemetery are manufactured. I'm not saying the cemetery is not haunted. I'm just saying there's hundreds of stories. You hear stories from ghost houses, the Madonna, the Grove, the woman that walks around the Grove. There's a famous photo of a woman that sits on a tombstone that was taken about 30 years ago. Large black creatures that look like dogs. There's just so many stories. Orbs. One of the latest stories that I've heard is the doppelganger effect, where people would see somebody outside of the cemetery here in these woods. Seconds later, they would go into the cemetery, and that person would be in the cemetery, and that person never left the cemetery. Just all kinds of stories. It's really quite fascinating. I'm sure most of them probably are not true or very well exaggerated. I guess I'm a skeptic when it comes to this stuff. I need to see proof. I've been to Bachelors Grove several times. I grew up several miles from here. Never felt anything strange or out of the ordinary. As a matter of fact, I always thought it was rather peaceful every time I came back in here. You know, when they took the road and they turned it into 143rd instead of having it go straight through here past the cemetery, I think it really reduced the traffic past the cemetery. It made the cemetery a little harder to get to, so people that had nefarious intentions were able to access the cemetery do whatever they do. There's a lot of vandalism in the cemetery, especially in the 60s and 70s. A lot of the graves were desecrated. There's a lagoon next to the cemetery, and it's thought that a lot of the tombstones ended up in that lagoon. And there's also talk of satanic rituals happening here back in the 1970s. Don't know if that's true or not. Boy, I wish I would have brought my bug spray. It's only 8 a.m., but wow, there's a lot of bugs out looking for breakfast. So here we are toward the entrance of Bachelors Grove. Now this cemetery reminds me of a lot of the Klingler cemetery that I explored a couple weeks ago. It's about the same size. This is a 1-acre cemetery. Started in the mid 1800s, like most of the cemeteries in this area. One thing you'll notice is the bugs are bad, is that the stones are just all over the place. This cemetery was in a lot of disrepair for many, many years, and 25 years ago, a group came together and they repaired the cemetery. They got the grass back, made it look better, but there are still just a lot of tombstones missing, knocked over, a lot of tombstones everywhere. Yeah, so it's funny too, as you look at different websites like Find a Grave. Find a Grave says there's over 200 sites in here. Well, here's the Ripet stone. That's one of the more famous ones. The truth is, there's 82 plots in here. If you look at the Historical Society, the Tinley Park Historical Society site, there's 82 plots. Grave of William Hamilton in 1903. I hope the wind does kick up. These bugs are terrible. I've never encountered bugs like this on any of my explorations before. All right, so what I did here, I brought a couple devices used for paranormal investigations. This one is a digital recorder. I've started it. I'm going to leave it here on top of that tombstone just to see if maybe we can get anything from it. This other one here, you can see, is a multi-purpose. Sorry about that, bugs are swarming me. This takes the temperature, EMF readings, any vibrations, humidity levels. This is a great tool. And it doesn't appear to be working. Okay, that's interesting because the batteries were brand new. Okay, well, it's not going on. Wow. That's too bad. I've only tested the tool once. I haven't used it, and the batteries are brand new. And it's dead. All right, well, who knows? All right, we'll walk around the perimeter of the cemetery here a little bit. As much as I can. I'm getting really eaten up here. The deck, tombstone, Bernard deck. You know, they talk about EVPs, or electronic voice phenomenon. Well, in here, we are near 143rd Street, and it's only 8 a.m. on a Saturday, and the traffic is pretty loud. I mean, it's not quiet in here at all. Whitmore Hullet, 1801 to 1862. You can see people leave trinkets. And I've said too, I've been here several times, but I've never encountered the bugs that I'm encountering today. Just massive amount of bugs. Charles Shields, Elizabeth Shields, and Robert Shields. I don't know why people will knock things over, especially something that size. It just doesn't make sense. I always like stuff like this. You know, it's marking a family plot or a particular grave. Again, you'll see a lot of bases to tombstones around here. Unfortunately, the tops to them are missing because they were vandalized and stolen. Okay, let me see if I can focus. I'm so distracted by bugs, it's hard for me to work the camera. John Hamilton, 1842, 1925. This is the famous Fulton stone. And the other side of it should be the infant child that everyone leaves gifts at. Every time I come here, this area just gets more and more vast with gifts and stones and what have you. Somebody even left a watercolor painting. It's pretty nice. I might not have blood by the time I leave here. I mean, I'm trying to keep the bugs off of me, but wow. So if we go over here to the corner of the cemetery, this is the lagoon that's adjacent to the cemetery. Of course, there's stories about this, about the farmer that was dragged in here with his horse and plow and died, and stories of, you know, mobs killing people and dumping them in here in the 1920s, and yeah, just all kinds of stories that you hear. Who knows what's true? I think one of the true stories in here, however, is that there are tombstones in there. It'd be great if they were able to temporarily, that truck sounded like the axles were falling off of it. It'd be great if they could temporarily drain that lagoon and retrieve whatever's in there and get it back into the cemetery. Again, I don't feel anything creepy. I'm the only one here. It feels very peaceful. Yeah, nothing strange. You notice a portion of the cemetery closest to the lagoon has the least headstones, and that's probably because most of them ended up in the lagoon. There's one headstone in this corner. This is the Newman headstone. I don't know if you can see that. It's a little bright. Daniel 1871 to 1947, and Dora, 1870 to 1948. Excuse my shadow. I wanted to get here early today. Well, one, thought I'd avoid some bugs, which didn't happen. And two, I wanted to avoid people. So that way, if I did catch any kind of voice anomalies on my digital video recorder, I know it's not people. I'm the only one here. Foskett Stone, Elva, 1871 to 1960, and Earling, 1880 to 1934. And this next stone here is, without question, the most famous stone in the cemetery. This is the stone that the Lady of the Madonna, the famous picture from 1991 of her sitting on this stone. I can't say if that photo is real or not. I'm not an expert. Allegedly, people have looked at it and said the photo is real. I believe it was taken with infrared film. It's intriguing anyways, if you've seen the photo. Very intriguing. I'm pausing because I feel like I hear voices coming from back beyond the gates, back beyond the fence back there. But it could just be a function of the traffic coming by. But it sounded like I heard some people talking, but don't know. Charles Hagman. You know, it's too bad that you can't come in here. And this was a huge stone. I mean, this is the base to it. This is the middle section of the stone. And I believe that's probably the top to the stone. So this stone was a good 8 to 10 feet high. I'm gonna take a quick look out here because I heard voices again. And I want to see if people are coming down the path, which they could be. And maybe the voices are just echoing. I don't see anyone coming down the path. Another video I would like to do is, Bachelors Grove is more than just the cemetery. Bachelors Grove was a community. And there are still remnants of the houses in that. And I would like to explore that as well. All right, well. As I walked through the gate, I heard the voice again. That's why I stopped. But this time, after reviewing the digital audio recorder, I captured the following EVP. Listen closely. Immediately after the loud scream, which I hope is a loud bird, you hear a whispery voice say something. Here, I'll play it again. I was unable to determine what the voice was saying. Please let me know in the comments with what you think the voice said. I'll keep my ears peeled. Yeah, it's just a shame that this cemetery had to be so desecrated and destroyed back in the 60s and 70s. But it's neat nonetheless. I'm really happy that they've recovered this to the extent they do. It's visited a lot. A lot of people come here, which is good, as long as you don't destroy things and you're respectful. That's fine. James McKee, 1845 to 1911. Delaney McKee, 1855 to 1920. I'm going to get my digital voice recorder. I'm going to turn it off here, and I'm going to place it on the other side of the cemetery where I thought I heard voices. So I'll be back. Let me pack this up here. You know, since I thought I did hear something, which I probably didn't, it's probably just a function of the traffic. I'm going to start this recorder. I'm going to see if anyone's here. Is there anybody here that would like to speak to me? Please talk into this recorder I have right here. It's not going to hurt you. As a matter of fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to set this recorder down on this tree stump. I'll walk away from it, and if you would like to say anything, please go to that device and speak. I will look around the cemetery over here. That way I'll give you some room. If anyone's here or anything's here, any spirits. But very peaceful cemetery. Like I said, I've been here a number of times, never had any kind of experiences. I've always felt very peaceful. I've always felt, I don't know, never felt anything. Today was the first time that it's kind of odd that I thought I heard something, but I don't know that I did for sure. Here's the Warren Stone. Mark, 1853 to 1904. A Mazzetta, that's an interesting name. I like that name. 1862 to 1901. There's so much information on this cemetery, so much false information, but it's a lot of good information as well. Bachelors Grove does have a website you can go to if you're more interested in that information. You can hear the traffic going down 143rd Street. I'm gonna go to the far east side of the cemetery right now. I'm gonna walk up that fence line. It was in the area over here where I thought I heard talking, but just make sure I didn't hear anything or make sure people are not over here. Because there are trails beyond this fence. There are trails, which I'm not going to go down today, because if the bugs are getting me in here, they're going to really be getting me out there. Do not hear anything. Yeah, I'm thinking maybe it was a function of the traffic going by and echoing. Maybe it sounded like voices. I don't know. I'd say let me know if you see anything on video, but it's very common when you film or take photos of forests that you can make out figures in the photos, because it's just how your brain wants to process it. Okay, I'm gonna go back, pick up my voice recorder. What I'll do is I'll review the footage, and if I find anything in the voice recorder, I will let everybody know. Okay, I'm gonna shut it off. Turn it off. I wish the other device worked. I don't know what's with that. I said, I put batteries in it and I tested it out, and I've never officially used it yet. I was going to use it today, and batteries are dead. Again, weird. Don't know if that's a function of the cemetery, or maybe I accidentally left it on, the batteries died. But it's hard to turn it on. It's not hard to turn it on, but the switch is in a spot where you can't really just hit it on accident. I'm gonna go down this trail just a little bit. So this was the old Midlothian Turnpike at one time. This was the road, 2-lane road. I go down here a little bit until I get really eaten up, and then I'm turning around. So this road did go all the way to Ridgeland Avenue. Okay, whew, that scared me. That was just a rabbit. Whoa, scared me. So you can imagine back in the day, you'd drive right past the cemetery. Cemetery would be on your right as you were heading southwest, and you would drive past the cemetery, go all the way to Ridgeland Avenue, go on your way. Now it's just a trail. There used to be a bridge up here that crossed over a small creek. That bridge is gone. When the creek is dry, you can cross it. So you can see the bridge is gone. No more bridge. You can cross the creek right over here if you want. I am not going to do that today because I am a feast for critters right now. So we're going to go back. Now my camera is not working correctly. My gimbal isn't rotating when I'm telling it to rotate. That's interesting. Okay, gimbal, I would like to rotate. There you go. Never really done that before. It wants to, when I keep the gimbal straight, it wants to rotate to the right. So now it's straight, and you see the camera? It rotates to the right. So now I'm rotating the gimbal far left to straighten the camera out. That's not how it should be. So now it's straight, and now it rotates to the right. That's bizarre. Huh. Well, I mean, that's interesting. I mean, between the batteries being dead, me hearing something, and who knows, and the gimbal suddenly not working correctly. That can't be a coincidence. All three of those things. Who knows? Okay. All right. I'm trying to do the ending of the... Here we go. Wow. The camera does not want to point to the cemetery. I was turning my gimbal and the camera was not, the gimbal was not responding. And I had to force it to get it to the cemetery. Okay, wow, I'm getting eaten alive here. Okay, that's weird. It's been quite an exploration. I didn't expect to have electronic issues and that type of thing. So that's bizarre. All right, I'm gonna get out of here before I get eaten alive. I'm gonna come back here. I'm gonna do another episode, probably sometime in the fall or winter. Try to find some foundations of the houses. Maybe I'll have equipment that's working better and we can do something. If I find anything on the EVP, I will put this in the video. If not, assume that I didn't find anything. So thank you for exploring Bachelors Grove with me today. A couple of strange things, I guess, happened. And until next time, keep exploring.